the most perfect vegan chocolate cake. I mean, check that out. It's like super moist, super rich. Oh. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Britt and I'm the vegan food blogger behind the Banana Diaries. And today we are making the most perfect vegan chocolate cake. This chocolate cake is so easy to make. You can make it in just one bowl and it's super rich, super moist. You'd never be able to tell that this cake is entirely eggless, dairy-free, and vegan, and can be made gluten-free. So without further ado, let's begin. So we've preheated our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I've lined 3 8-inch cake pans with parchment paper and I've also greased them as well. And I've also pre-measured all the ingredients. That's a pro tip right there, is to pre-measure all of your ingredients so that you're not scrambling while you're making the cake, and then it just makes for a much smoother baking process. So don't worry, it's actually not a lot right here. So what we have our flour. We have all-purpose flour. You can also use gluten-free 1-in-1 baking flour. Please see the recipe notes for how to swap that in, along with our baking powder and baking soda. We have our vegan buttermilk, which is homemade. It's just dairy-free milk, almond milk or soy milk with apple cider vinegar, or you can use lemon juice. We have vegan butter. I'm using melted vegan butter. The recipe card calls for room temperature, but you can actually make this cake either by using room temperature or melted vegan butter. Just make sure that your melted vegan butter is cooled to room temperature so it's not piping hot when you mix all the other ingredients together. Then we have our vanilla extract, our cocoa powder, which we're going to use the sifter to make sure that there are no more clumps in there. Our applesauce, you can also swap in dairy-free yogurt, and our sugar. I'm using a mixture of both granulated sugar and brown sugar. The reason why I'm also using brown sugar is because brown sugar is made with molasses, so that adds a richer flavor to our chocolate cake. All right, let's begin. We're going to add our melted vegan butter into our large bowl right here. Next, we have our applesauce. And then we have our sugars, our granulated sugar and our brown sugar in here. You can also swap in coconut sugar too if you don't have brown sugar. And then we're gonna add in just a teaspoon of vanilla extract. All right, and now we're just going to whisk everything together until it is nicely combined. So this is so much easier than using a stand mixer, but you can use a stand mixer if you have one. I typically prefer to make my cakes in a stand mixer, but I thought, let's just keep it really, really simple today and just use a bowl and a whisk. And the result is still really amazing, to be honest. All right, once that is all whisked together, you're gonna see it's just whisked until combined. Next, we're gonna sift in our cocoa powder. So I'm using all natural cocoa powder. This is different than cacao powder and Dutch processed cocoa powder. The reason why I'm using all natural cocoa powder is because it has the highest level of acidity. Oh, a few clumps are gonna get in there. That's okay, it's not gonna affect our overall cake. The reason why I'm using all natural cocoa powder is because it has the highest level of acidity in it, and that's gonna react with our baking soda and cause our cakes to rise. And it also has a wonderful taste, and it'll help with the texture as well. The reason why I don't recommend using cacao powder is because while cacao powder, the health community, typically the vegan community also loves to use cacao powder because it is, I'm breathing in cocoa powder. It's rich in antioxidants. It actually doesn't have a lot of acidity in it, and you're still gonna get wonderful taste of cocoa if you just use all natural cocoa powder. And doing this also just helps prevent any clumps of cocoa powder in there in our cake once it's fully baked. We want this to be like the perfect vegan chocolate cake, which, trust me, it is. You can also use a very fine mesh strainer or colander if you don't have one of these. It's just a flour sifter. Also key for making amazing vegan brownies. Linking that above for you. Okay, we can set these aside. And now we're going to mix this in again to just our wet ingredients. We haven't added the flour, the coffee, or the vegan buttermilk yet. And this is kind of honestly similar to making a devil's food cake. If you guys ever remember that from childhood, I used to love devil's food cake. You know, that Betty Crocker box mix. The taste was amazing. So, sorry. In the background, my cat is going crazy right now, just running back and forth. He wants me to play with him. Unfortunately, I have to bake a cake first, and then I can play with him. So now we have a really deep, rich, chocolatey texture and flavor, to be honest. I mean, if you were to eat this right now, and technically you could because there's no eggs in it, there's no dairy, it's all vegan goodness, but I mean, you wouldn't want to eat that, it wouldn't be good for you. Anyways, okay. We are now going to add in our flour, and then our 2 remaining wet ingredients. So we have the flour whisked with the baking powder and baking soda. Just going to add that to the bowl. And then we have our room temperature vegan buttermilk. This has been sitting so that it thickens. If you just notice there's like, you know, clumps falling in there, that's basically like our buttermilk. And we're going to start by whisking this into the mixture. And don't worry, you're not gonna overmix it, but still, like, you shouldn't be like, you know, like really trying to mix it hard. You're just going to mix it until the flour is just beginning to incorporate into this mixture. Again, we want like a super easy, quick and simple chocolate cake here. And right about now, we're going to add in our coffee mixture. So this is what it looks like right now. It's kind of clumpy, it's not really pretty. If you've noticed, we typically call for room temperature ingredients when baking. However, with chocolate, I'm sorry, my cat is literally, Cosmo is taking the bell toy and he's just running across. He's hilarious. Typically, we call for room temperature ingredients in baking. However, with chocolate baked goods specifically with this chocolate cake, we're calling for hot coffee. The reason being is because hot liquid will help to bloom the cocoa powder, which adds a richer taste. Typically, people like to add in coffee. You can use decaf coffee. You can also use herbal coffee. I have a great herbal coffee blend from Animamundi Herbals. It's called Happiness Powder, and it tastes amazing. If you just mix that in, or you could just use warm dairy-free milk as well, not buttermilk. You can just use dairy-free milk, and that hot liquid will help to bloom the cocoa powder and add a richer taste of the cocoa powder. But if you add coffee, then coffee tends to amplify chocolate anyways, so that's why we're adding that in. So I'm gonna just pour that in here. And we're adding it at the end because, you know, it's about to go into the oven, so the hot liquid will just help the cake overall. Okay, we're gonna whisk. I know, Cosmo, I'm gonna play with you after I get the cakes into the oven, okay, buddy? I promise. But we're just going to whisk until you get a nice consistent batter, and really just whisk until you get that consistent batter so that you prevent the overmixing. So like, it really doesn't take very many whisks until you get a batter like this, if you can tell. Look at that, that is like perfect consistency. That's great. All right, we are going to get this into our cake pans now, and let's get this cake baking. So now we have our cake pans. We are just going to set this whisk aside because we don't want it to fall into the cakes. It is a super runny batter, which is perfect. That's what we want. I'm gonna pour that in there. Beautiful. Okay. You guys can see. I'm gonna add a little bit more cake batter into this guy. Okay, just gonna make sure that there are no clumps in here. All right, so now our cakes are ready to go into the oven. So I'm going to pop these into the oven for about 33 to 35 minutes, or until the toothpick comes out clean, and then we will let them cool fully before we make our frosting and then assemble our chocolate cake. All right, I'll be right back. Cakes are cooling. They're actually fully cool now, which is great, which means that we can start making our chocolate buttercream. This is an entirely vegan, dairy-free chocolate buttercream, and it's so easy. You just need vegan butter, cocoa powder, powdered sugar, and then a little bit of dairy-free milk to help make everything super creamy and fluffy. So I already have 2 cups of vegan butter into my stand mixer. You can also use a large bowl with a hand mixer, and I'm using Earth Balance today. Personally, I prefer using Miyoko's. However, my grocery store only had Earth Balance, so we are rolling with that. Earth Balance is fine to use. It's also great if you are nut-free because Miyoko's does have cashews in it. The one thing I will know with Earth Balance is that it's a little bit less stable at room temperature, so you won't be able to leave your cake out at room temperature for as long as you could with Miyoko's. I've noticed that, so just beware. If you're using this buttercream frosting for a wedding cake or any reason why you would leave a cake out on your table for an extended period of time, just note Earth Balance, maybe not the best option for that. Or just transfer the cake to the fridge. Anyways, let's get making this buttercream. So we're just going to cream the vegan butter for about 2 to 3 minutes until fluffy, and it'll start to turn a little bit whiter and paler in color, and that's when you know it's time to add in our powdered sugar and our cocoa powder. So this is what it starts to look like. It's a little bit whiter in color, and now we're going to add in our powdered sugar in increments along with our cocoa powder. I'm going to just push the vegan butter into the middle of the bowl. I might just refer to this as butter throughout this, just because it's easier. You guys know that it's vegan. And now we're going to add in our powdered sugar. So it's good to add it in increments so you're not overwhelming the vegan butter, and obviously I'm not being like super precise here, which is totally fine. Just, you know, a rough estimate because I've already measured out. This is 2 pounds of powdered sugar, which sounds like a lot, but we're making a lot of chocolate buttercream. So next up, we're going to just mix this together and start it off slow, or else the powdered sugar will fluff into your face, and that's not fun. We can add in a little bit more. And I'm also gonna add in our cocoa powder here too. Making a cake, you're always gonna have to have some kind of cleanup, right? I'm just gonna go and dump all of this in here. The lovely cocoa powder. This is Dutch processed cocoa powder. You can use your all natural cocoa powder or Dutch process. Either works. Here we go, start off slow. Ooh, it's already a little like chocolatey. I'm gonna start to add in a little bit of the dairy-free milk. This is soy milk. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. Oh, that's really good. Here we go. And that will just help smooth everything along and make it super creamy and fluffy. But right now, it's just gonna look like a big mess, which is totally fine. It's gonna look like super dry because the powdered sugar and the dry ingredients are trying to incorporate into the vegan butter. There we go. Now it's gonna look really dark at first, but this will lighten in color as we add in more powdered sugar. And I actually have a whole separate recipe for this chocolate buttercream on the blog. That's going to be linked down below in the recipe card, but it's also included in the vegan chocolate cake. Now I'm just going to add in the remainder of the powdered sugar, and then we're just going to also scrape down the sides a little bit so everything is super incorporated. We definitely have a mess to clean up, but that's okay, because if you don't make a mess, then you didn't make a cake. And making a cake is really wonderful. Now scrape down the sides a little bit. Okay, all right, now I'm also going to add in the remainder of our dairy-free milk here and just whip this until it is nice and creamy. Oh my gosh, guys, look. Oh, that is cool. That is really yummy looking. Check that out. It's super fluffy, smooth, consistent, and now we are ready to frost our chocolate cake. So I'm gonna clean up this area really fast, and then we will grab our cake and stack it up. Okay, so I am using a cake turntable, and I've already placed the first layer onto a cake stand. I place the cake stand onto a cake turntable. I find that this is just so much easier, especially if you want to put the cake on display already on the cake stand. So then after you frosted it, you don't have to worry about transferring it to a cake stand already. It's just already there, and you can easily frost it. So that's my little trick right there. Obviously, if you're making this cake and you're transporting it into like a cake box, you can use a cake board instead of a cake stand. But so we are just going to add our frosting to the first layer, and I'm gonna add about, it's like roughly a cup of frosting to this layer. And I like a lot of frosting between the layers, just to let you guys know. So do whatever makes you happiest. And I'm also using an offset spatula right here. This is just the easiest way that I found to spread the frosting onto the cake. You can use a silicone spatula, you can just use a regular knife if that's all you have, and that's totally fine, and you're still gonna come out with a beautiful cake. This is just, if you really, really love making cakes and you wanna get into this, this is one of my favorite tools to use. Especially because it gets the layers so nice, and even when you have a large one like this, like you can really just, it's all super smooth and even, which is nice. All right, now time to put the second layer on top. Okay, we're gonna line that up. And now to add more frosting. So we're gonna, I mean, if you wanna be super precise, you can measure out your frosting so that's really even layers. But I'm just really eyeballing this and saying like, okay, that's about what I did for the last layer. Then we're going to just spread this around. And I also try to go just over the edges because that's gonna be so much easier when we crumb coat. And for this cake, I'm actually gonna go for a more rough and ready look. So I'm gonna go for like, not rough and ready, that's probably the wrong phrasing. It's like, I wanna do swoops with the frosting, which is something I think that's really pretty and elegant, especially with chocolate frosting. So I'm not gonna do a full-on crumb coat where, you know, you just do the bare crumb coat of the outer cake and then you chill it and then you do the final layer of frosting, which you totally can do. This is just then a quick and simple, easy chocolate cake, and you don't have to worry about spending tons of time decorating it. And it can still look really good. Third layer on top, that looks about even. You don't want to do the same amount on top, and definitely save some chocolate frosting for the size of your cake. But I just do kind of, I think probably about like 3/4 of what I do in between the layers for on top. So I'm gonna add a little bit more. And then before I add more frosting to the cake, I'm gonna, well first I have to spill the frosting over the edges of the cake like this. And that's just gonna be so much easier when we go to frost the entire cake. And now I'm gonna take this frosting that's kind of spilling over the edges, and I'm just going to kind of create our almost crumb coat here. And I'm gonna definitely apply an ample amount of frosting to the sides of it, but first I just wanna make sure that all of the cake layers are covered. And if you notice that your frosting is starting to get too soft, like especially because I live in Florida, so it's already super humid in May. I think it's getting up to like 94 degrees already, which is wild. This is my first time in a Florida spring, so it's something new. You can definitely refrigerate your cake in between doing this, like after you've applied this like minimal crumb coat right here, and then that will help set the layers a little bit. You can chill it for about like 10-15 minutes is all you really need, and then you can take it back out and continue to frost it. Normally, if you wanted to make a super clean crumb coat, you would then take, it's easiest with an offset spatula, to trim the edges and go like that to create like an even edge. Obviously, it's easier to chill the frosting too and have a cleaner offset spatula. I'm just gonna do swoops, so I'm not going for the clean edge, so I'm gonna just have fun with it. I'm gonna apply more frosting too. And I think like the more organic it looks, the better, so don't overwork it, don't overthink it too. And once I have the frosting, I'm gonna go a little bit more intentional with my swoops. Have any leftover frosting, you can actually freeze the frosting and save it for if you're making chocolate cupcakes, which I do have a recipe for that as well. You can even spread them on top of brownies too, which is really nice. Now I'm actually going to use a spoon next to even out the swoops. And just clean up the edges where we are frosting a bit. Oh, got some frosting there and there. Okay, and now we are ready to serve it. Okay, so we have our chocolate cake. It is time to slice into it. The best Best part. Okay. Perfectionist is trying to do the perfect slice. Okay, here we go. I think we should do a decent sized slice. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. Oh my goodness, you guys. Are we kidding? This is beautiful. Wow. Boom. Wow. This is a beautiful chocolate cake, you guys. I'm so excited for you to try this. Like, it is just so good looking, so good looking. It's super moist, it's chocolatey, it's rich, it's so easy to make. I mean, come on, that was like so incredibly easy to make, right guys? You're just gonna absolutely love this. It's the perfect cake for birthdays, for weddings even if you wanted to do that. It's awesome. I swear I have chocolate frosting on my face. Ah. Okay, and now for the taste test. Wow, that is like super moist and perfect. Guys, that crumb is beautiful. Wow. Okay. Wow. That's the best chocolate cake I've ever had. I just blew my own mind. This is truly the most perfect vegan chocolate cake ever. It's the most perfect chocolate cake. You're just gonna love it. You can find the full recipe to this chocolate cake down below, linked in the description box. It's the first line right there. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification as well to be notified when more recipe videos like this come up. And if you try this cake, please let me know down below in the comment section. And also, if you could, please leave a review on the site because that helps other readers decide whether or not they want to make the recipe. And it just helps to build more of a community, which we're now all a strong community of vegan bakers. There's like 150,000 of us on Instagram and 300,000 on the blog. It's pretty cool. Okay guys, I'll see you on the next one. I'm gonna go finish eating that slice of chocolate cake because it's really, really good. It's gonna probably ruin my dinner. It's fine. Yeah, it's worth it. Okay, bye guys.